Okay, good morning once again, one and all. So today we will understand the concept of Coulomb's damping. As far as the last lectures are concerned, we have understand the analysis of a viscous damping. So when we started with the module number 4, that is a free damp vibratory system, I have explained you that there are two types of the damping which we will be considering for the analysis in this particular module. The first is the viscous damping, which we have completed, and from today onwards we will start with the analysis of Coulomb's damping. Okay, now basically what is Coulomb's damping? Coulomb damping is the damping that occurs when two dry or unlubricated surface, when two dry or unlubricated surfaces slides each other, right? Okay, so if we look into this example, this is a mass n which is sliding on this surface. Okay, and both the surfaces are unlubricated surfaces. So the damping, the corresponding damping is called as the Coulomb's damping. Now basically Coulomb's damping is based on the Coulomb's law of dry friction. Now what is Coulomb's law of dry friction? Let us understand what is Coulomb's law of dry friction. Now Coulomb's law of dry friction states that when the two surfaces are in contact with each other, let us say mass m and this surface, these two surfaces are in contact with each other, the force required to produce sliding between them, the force required to produce the sliding between them is proportional to the normal force, or you can say a normal reaction between the two surfaces. Okay, so let us say that in the another words, the frictional force, that force is nothing but a frictional force, is directly proportional to the normal reaction. So let us say the frictional force is Fr. This frictional force Fr is directly proportional to the normal reaction. Let us say Rn is the normal reaction. So Fr is directly proportional to the Rn. So I can write it as a Fr is equal to mu into Rn, where mu is nothing but the coefficient of friction. Now, if you look into this particular figure, this Rn is equal to the W, okay, equal and opposite, and W is equal to mg. So I can write this equation as Fr is equal to mu into mg, or you can write it like this, mu into W. So this is the first equation which I got from the Coulomb's law of dry friction. So I will repeat once again. The Coulomb's law of dry friction states that when the two surfaces are in contact with each other, the force required to produce the sliding between them is proportional to the normal force on the normal reaction between the two surfaces. That is, Fr is directly proportional to Rn. Rn is equal to mu mg or mu w. So I am getting this, let us say, equation number 1. So this is called as the Coulomb's damping. I hope you have understand the basic principle of the Coulomb's damping. Now once you have understand the basic principles of Coulomb damping, let's understand some more deeper concepts. Now this frictional force Fr. Now what is frictional force? This Fr is nothing but a force which is also called the frictional force. This Fr is always opposite to the motion of the body. For example, if the motion, let me clear out this. Let us say if motion is in this direction, let us say this is the direction of the motion, as you can see in the picture. So Fr is opposite to this motion always. So this frictional force always opposes the motion of the body. So hence, depending upon the direction of motion of the body, I am repeating my question. I am repeating my dialogue. Depending upon the motion of the body, depending upon the direction of the motion of the body, the direction of the frictional force will also change. Okay. Now this is the first step, first point, that Fr is opposite to the motion of what? Motion of body, right? The second point is that the frictional force is constant in magnitude, acts as a damping force. This frictional force is constant in magnitude, right? It is constant in magnitude and it acts as a damping force. Now basically, as far as the last lectures are concerned, in viscous damping, your damping force was nothing but F is equal to C into X dot. So F was your viscous damping force, okay, and C was your damping constant. So in this case, there is no C, or you can say there is no external damper we are providing here. Okay, this frictional force Fr itself is acting as a damper, that is itself is acting as a C, right? So it is constant in magnitude and it acts as a damping force. Acts as a damping force F, right? This is a second point. And the third and the important point is that this Coulomb's damping is therefore called as a constant damping. Okay, this Coulomb's damping is also called as a constant damping. Why it is called as a constant damping? Because it is in a constant magnitude, and this frictional force Fr is acting as a damping force. So this Fr is nothing but the F. What is F? F is nothing but the damping force. Okay, so that is why this it is also called as a constant damping. Okay, so these are the three important points which I have explained you. Now let us understand another point. Now basically let us say initially it was in a rest condition. This mass was at a rest condition. You applied a motion, so mass is displaced. So the mass is displaced. Now you can say in displaced position, what happens in the displaced position? There are three different forces acting on the mass. So in displaced position, the forces acting on the mass is, I will write here, forces acting on the mass are, first is spring force, right? So the spring force is given by what? It is given by K into X, that is K into displacement. Now it is opposite to displacement. Now the spring force is opposite to X. X means what? Displacement. The second force which is acting on the mass is nothing but a friction force. Now instead of damping force, now we will have a friction force. I am repeating again, this frictional force is itself acting as a damping force. So frictional force is given by Fr and it is opposite to velocity. What is velocity? X dot. And the third point is that the third and the last force acting on the mass is nothing but the inertia force, and it is as usual mx double dot, and again it is opposite to the x double dot. There is an acceleration. Okay, so in a displaced position, spring force, friction force and inertia force opposite to the displacement, velocity and acceleration are nothing but the three forces acting on the mass. I hope it is clear to all of you. Okay, now next, to do the further analysis, let us consider a simple spring mass system. So I will consider a simple spring mass system. So let me take a simple spring mass system connected to a spring, let us say K, and this is a mass M. Okay, and this mass M is sliding on a dry surface, right? So this is a dry surface. Okay, and let us say this is a mean position of the mass. This is a mean position of the mass, or you can call it as a rest position, or we can also call it as a mean position, or we can also call it as an equilibrium position. Okay, so this is rest or mean or equilibrium position. Okay, now uh, let mu be the coefficient of dry friction between the two surfaces. Let us consider mu is the coefficient of friction between the two surfaces. Now basically try to understand that in this rest position or mean equilibrium position, the spring is unstretched. Spring is unstretched, right? Means there is no stretching in the spring. Means what? There is no either compression, there is neither, because I haven't given any initial displacement. The system is not a dynamic system. System is just at an equilibrium position. So spring is unstretched and no frictional force is acting on the system. There is no frictional force. This is what you have to understand. So at rest or mean or equilibrium position, the spring is unstretched, no compression, no elongation of the spring, and there is no frictional force acting on the mass. No frictional force acts on the mass. Okay, now I have considered a simple spring mass system with a mass m sliding on a dry surface. I have considered mu as the coefficient of dry friction between the two surfaces, and I have stated that in equilibrium position the spring is unstretched and no frictional force acts on the mass. Okay, now there are three conditions. One is x dot, velocity, displacement x, and x double dot. Now in this Coulomb's damping, to do the analysis of a simple spring mass system, it is very important to consider the sign convention. So as far as the sign convention is concerned, let us say this is a mean position. So for mean, from the mean position, x, that is a displacement, velocity x dot, and acceleration x double dot are taken positive towards the right side. So x dot, x and x double dot are taken positive towards the right side of the mean position, and towards the, if towards the left side of the mean position, this x dot and x double dot are taken as negative. Okay, so x dot and x double dot are negative towards the right side and positive, sorry, negative towards the left side and positive towards the right side. Okay, so this is what we have considered. Okay, chalo. Now next, now uh, once we have understand this a simple, once we have considered this a simple schema system, now basically let us consider one cycle. Now basically in one cycle, okay, one cycle means what? Let us say the mass is moving, mass, this is a starting position. Okay, so from this point A, let us say this is a point C. From this point A to point C, let us say this is a one cycle. This is a one cycle. Okay, one cycle means what? One complete oscillation. So now to do the analysis of a simple, you can say simple CMOS system, this one cycle is divided into the four quarters. Means what? It is divided into the four quarters. So I have to divide this one cycle into the four quarters, or you can say four parts. Okay, so four quarters means what? Let me change the color pen. So let us say this is 1, 2 and 3. So this is the first quarter, let us say. This is the second quarter, this is the third quarter, and this is the fourth quarter. So I have divided this one cycle into the four parts. Okay, so how you have to divide, how normally we divide this, and then you have to do the analysis of each part, and then you have to find the final equation. Okay, so basically this one cycle, okay, is divided into the four parts. The first part is, let us say, the first quarter. So in first quarter, basically what happens, we assume that, or we consider that mass is on the right side. Mass is on the right side. Which side? Right side. Right side of what? Right side of equilibrium position. Okay, means what? If this is the equilibrium position, the mass is towards the right hand side of this mean position. Okay, and one more important consideration in this is that mass is on the right side of the mean position and moving towards the right, and moving towards the right, moving towards the right. This is the first. Second, in second quarter, what we consider? In second quarter, we consider second quarter, or second part, you can also call it as a. In second quarter, we consider mass is on the right side. Again, say mass is on the right side of equilibrium position and moving towards the left. Means what? Now it is moving towards the left. Moving towards the left. Okay, this is the second cycle we are considering. In third quarter, what we are considering the third quarter? Now mass is on the left side. Now on the right side moving to the right, on the right side moving to the left. Now mass is on the left side and moving towards the left, and moving towards the left. This is a next quarter, and the fourth quarter or fourth part of the cycle we are considering mass is on the left side. Mass is on the left side, and now it is moving towards the right. Okay, now I will help you to understand with the figure what is this particular cycle. So I mean to say that, let us say this is a mass m. Okay, it is moving on this dry surface, unlubricated surface, so there is a frictional, this is nothing but a Coulomb damping. Let us say this is a mean position. In first case, mass is towards, the position of the mass is towards the right side and the motion is towards the right. Okay, in second case, mass is towards the right side, but it is moving towards the left, because you know that at the extreme position, when mass will move to the extreme position, that is a right extreme position. Let us say this is a right extreme position now. This is a right extreme position. So at right extreme position, the complete kinetic energy will become zero and potential energy will become maximum, and again mass will try to move towards the left side. Okay, so this is the first quarter, this is the second quarter. In third quarter, what happens? Mass, now mass, after mass will come to the equilibrium position at this position, and then it will again move towards the left. Means what? Now mass is on the left of the equilibrium position, and again it is moving towards the left. Okay, so this is third position. Now at when it will move towards the extreme left, at extreme left what will happen? Again your potential energy will become maximum. So at extreme left, the potential energy will become maximum, that is the P max. Potential energy means strain energy, and kinetic energy will become again 0. And again now this mass is at a left only, but now moving to the right. So mass is now moving to the right. Okay. So in this way we have considered 4 positions of the mass moving from the mean position, once to the right and once to the left, and then you can do the analysis. I hope you have understand. See, in first case mass is on the right side of the mean position. I will write here. It is very important to understand, on the right side of the mean position, this is the right side, and moving towards the right. Then again when it will reach the right extreme position, means what, its potential energy will become maximum, K will become 0, as I said in the earlier lectures. Again mass will try to move towards the mean position, means what, it will move towards the left. Then it will try to, and then it will come to the left side of what, mean position, and it will move towards the left only. That is a third position. Why? Because complete kinetic energy has not become 0. Then at extreme left position your kinetic energy will become 0, potential energy will become maximum, and again mass will start moving towards the right side, and again it will come to the mean position. So unless and until whole energy is removed from this particular cycle, this cycle will keep on oscillating in these particular positions. So I hope you have understand this, all the 4 parts. Okay, so first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. Now we will do the analysis of each, and then we will understand what exactly equation we are getting. Okay, so the first we will do the analysis of a first quarter. Now analysis of a first quarter. Now what is first quarter? Now guys, try to understand that I will not do the analysis for all the quarters. I will do the analysis only for the first quarter, and rest you can follow the same logic and do the analysis of a second, third and fourth quarter. You will get the same equations. Let me show you how the equations is generated. Okay, so now first of all let me draw the free body diagram and the equilibrium position diagram. So this is a mass. Let us say this is a mean position. This is your mean position. Now where is the mass? First quarter mass is towards the right of the mean position. Okay, now spring is stretched, means what, spring is elongated. Now let us say this is MEN, mean position. So where is the motion of the mass now? The motion of the mass is towards the right. Towards the right, the motion is towards the right. Means what? Now when motion is towards the right, we know that x dot and x double dot will be opposite to, will be in the same direction of the motion. That is, the motion means what, x is the displacement. Okay, now this is the case number 1. Now as I said earlier that we are considering the positive x dot and x double dot, positive to the right side and negative to the left side of the mean position. Okay, now this is a basic first quarter diagram. Now let me draw the free body diagram of this mass. So what is the free body diagram of mass n? Now the x, that is a motion, is towards the right side. So inertia force is nothing but the mx double dot opposite to the acceleration. Where is acceleration acting? Acceleration is acting opposite, x dot and x double dot. Now frictional force. Frictional force means what? Fr. As I said that Fr is acting opposite to the velocity x dot. And one more force, that is a kx, is nothing but a spring force. So in displaced position, as I said in the last few minutes earlier, that kx will act opposite to the x, mx double dot will act opposite to the x double dot, and fr will act opposite to the displacement. Now this is nothing but a free body diagram. Now guys, you apply the D'Alembert's principle. What is the D'Alembert's principle? Summation of inertia forces plus summation of inertia force plus external forces bracket is equal to 0. Okay, so this is what I have already explained. Now tell me, what are the inertia forces? Okay, now all the inertia forces what we have, now they are, you can say, toward the left, direction is left na? So we'll take negative in this case. So minus mx double dot, minus mx double dot, I will erase out this. Okay, so minus mx double dot, then minus kx and minus fr is equal to 0. Okay, this is what I am getting. So now all are negative. So mx double dot plus kx plus fr is equal to 0, right? So this is what I am getting the equation. So let me call this as equation number 1. So this equation 1 I have got for first quarter. Now similarly you have to do the analysis of a second quarter, third quarter and fourth quarter. So this you can do it your own. I will just show you what equations we are getting. Okay. So for second quarter, okay, similarly by doing the same analysis by considering the free body diagram, for second quarter you will get the equation mx double dot plus kx minus fr is equal to 0. Let me call this equation number 2. Similarly for the third quarter, by doing the same analysis you will get the equation mx double dot plus kx minus fr is equal to 0. This is the third. And for the fourth quarter you are getting the equation mx double dot plus kx plus fr is equal to 0. This is a fourth quarter. And what was the first? For first quarter what we have got? Mx double dot plus kx plus fr is equal to 0. So this is what we have got. Now guys, you can understand from all these four equations, after doing the analysis you can see that for the second and the third quarter you are getting the same equation. For the first and fourth quarter or fourth part of the cycle you are getting the same equation. Now you can do the further analysis by considering any of the equation from 2 and 3 and any of the equation from 4 and 1. Now let us say for I am considering a first and fourth quarter cycle, first quarter of a cycle. Okay, so what I'm getting, see, mx double dot plus kx plus fr is equal to 0. So let me do the analysis. So let me say that x double dot, let me divide whole term by m. So x plus fr divided by m is equal to 0. This is I am getting. Okay, now you can remove k upon m common. So if you want k upon m, let us say common, why I am removing common we will understand further. So what I will get equation x double dot plus, if k upon m is common in both the terms, so here the remaining term will be x plus here fr upon k, and that is equal to 0. So now if you multiply, you can see k upon m, x plus k will get cancelled, you will get fr upon m. So that is the same. So now we will do some further modification. So I am saying that defining this term y as x plus fr by k. So let us say y is equal to fr by k. Okay. Therefore, you can say that when y is equal to x, so y dot is equal to x double dot. Okay. Now, from this equation, what can I get from this equation? I can get, sorry, from this equation by putting here y, what I will get? I will get y double dot plus k upon m into y, k upon n into y. This term is y, na? This term is y, x plus fr. I have mentioned here. So this term is y. So k upon y is equal to 0. Okay, I am getting this some equation. And let us say getting this equation A. Now this equation A represents what this equation A represents. This equation represents a simple harmonic motion about y is equal to 0. About y is equal to 0, this y double dot plus k upon m upon y is equal to 0 represents a simple harmonic motion. Okay, represents a simple harmonic motion. So means what? What you will get from this equation? You will get x plus fr by k is equal to 0. Why x plus fr by k is equal to 0? Because this equation represents a simple harmonic motion when y is equal to 0. So if I put y is equal to 0, I am getting x plus fr by k is equal to 0. Okay, so from this equation I am getting x displacement as a fr divided by k. So this is what I have got. So this x is nothing but the fr divided by k minus fr divided by k. For which cycle? First and a fourth cycle, I am getting x is equal to minus fr by k. I will show you exactly what do you mean by minus fr by k and fr by k in that particular cycle diagram. Okay, but now you understand that for first and fourth quarter cycle I have got x is equal to minus fr by k. Now now there is equation number A, which is nothing but a simple harmonic motion about y is equal to 0. So let me compare it with the standard simple harmonic motion. So what is the standard simple harmonic motion? Standard simple harmonic motion is, let us say, y double dot plus omega n square y is equal to 0. This is the standard simple harmonic motion. So now when I compare this standard equation with A equation, I will get omega n square is equal to k upon m. So for Coulomb's damping, I am getting omega n is equal to square root of k upon m. So this is what I have got. Now, okay, now we have understand the analysis of a first and fourth quarter cycle. Now we will understand the analysis of a second and third quarter cycle. Now in the last slide I have explained you that the equation for the second and third quarter of a cycle will be, what will be the equation? Mx double dot plus kx minus fr is equal to 0, right? So from this I will get x double dot plus k upon m into x minus fr upon m equal to 0. So from this I can get again same procedure, common, let us say k upon m is the common. So here we get x minus fr divided by k. So here we are getting 0. Now let us consider that y is equal to x minus fr by k. So therefore since y is equal to x, so y double dot is equal to x double dot. So I will get, so this equation will become y double dot plus k upon n into y is equal to 0, and let me call this as equation B. Now this equation B represents, what this equation B represent? Represent the same as the equation number A, that it represents a simple harmonic motion about y is equal to 0. Means what, this equation B represents a simple harmonic motion about y is equal to 0. So what you can write for this equation? So you can say that this term x minus fr by k is equal to 0. Therefore for second and third quarter cycle I am getting x is equal to 4 fr upon k. So for first and fourth I got x is equal to minus fr by k, and for second and third I got x is equal to fr by k. Now comparing this equation B, with standard simple harmonic motion, that is y double dot plus omega n square y is equal to 0, you will get omega n, again you will get same answer, that is omega n is equal to square root of k upon n. Okay, now let us understand the significance. So for first and fourth quarter cycle, what I got for first and fourth cycle, I got omega n is equal to square root of k upon n, and x is equal to minus fr upon k. Fr is the frictional force, k is the stiffness. For second and third quarter cycle, what I got omega n is equal to, again same, square root of k upon n, but I got this x is equal to fr upon k. We'll understand the diagram later on. Okay, so from this both the equations, let me call this as equation 1, and first of all let me call this equation 2. So from this equation 1 and 2, what you can understand that the natural frequency of damped vibration. Natural frequency of damped vibration means what? Omega d for Coulomb's damping. Now here obviously the frictional force Fr acts as a damping force, right? So in Coulomb's damping there is a damping. Okay, so if there is a damping means what? There is an external damping which is provided by the frictional force Fr, means the corresponding frequency will be a damped natural frequency omega d. So omega d for Coulomb's damping, is same as omega n, that is the natural frequency of undamped vibration. This is undamped vibration means what? Of undamped vibratory system. Okay, what is undamped vibration? Your model number 3. That omega n means what? Your omega d for Coulomb's damping is equal to omega n. And what is omega n? Square root of k upon n. So this is what we are understanding. So this is a very important statement. I am repeating again. The natural frequency of damped vibration, that is omega d for Coulomb's damping, is same as the omega n of undamped vibration, that is square root of k upon n. To be more precise, for viscous damping, what was omega d? Omega n into square root of 1 minus zeta square. This is nothing but the omega d for viscous damping, what we have derived. But for Coulomb's damping, omega n, omega d, that is the frequency of damp vibration, is equal to omega n. Means what? It is nothing but the square root of k upon n. So this is what you have to remember. So while calculating omega d for viscous damping, you have to use this formula omega n into square root of 1 minus zeta square. And for Coulomb's damping, you have to use this formula, that is omega n, that is a natural frequency of free vibration or undamped vibration, that is square root of k upon n. This is what we have understood from this analysis. And if you want to calculate the time period, so obviously time period will not be equal to 2 pi upon omega d, but it will be equal to 2 pi upon omega n in seconds. Okay, now this once you have understand. Now for first and fourth quarter cycle, I have got x is equal to minus fr by k, and for second and third quarter cycle, I have got x is equal to fr by k. Okay, now let us understand this. Okay, now again, as in the viscous damping, for the Coulomb's damping also, there are two important parameters. First is omega d, frequency of damp vibration, which is equal to omega n for Coulomb's damping, and second is rate of decay of vibration, rate of decay. Now in viscous damping, you know that the rate of decay of vibration was measured by whom? It was measured by a parameter called as a logarithm decrement del. So here, in case of the Coulomb's damping, this logarithmic decrement is given by the notation del, delta, sorry. So it was a del here for viscous damping. It was a del here for viscous damping, and for the rate of decay of vibration, that is measured by a parameter called as a logarithm decrement, that is denoted by delta in case of the Coulomb's damping. So these are nothing but the differences what you have to remember as far as the Coulomb's damping and viscous damping are considered. Okay, now let us understand. Now this is the cycle diagram which I have already pasted here. Okay, so rate of decay of vibration. Now what is the rate of decay of vibration? Means what? The rate at which your amplitudes go on decreasing. So that is denoted by this del. What is this del? Del denotes the rate of decay of vibration, and that formula, final formula, is nothing but a 4 fr by k. So how this formula came, that we have to understand. Now for viscous damping, what was del? It was a natural log of a ratio of two successive logarithm decrement, which is equal to ln of x2 upon x3, which is equal to ln of x3 upon x4. Means what? The ratio of two successive amplitude was constant. The ratio of two successive amplitude was constant in case of the viscous damping. In case of the Coulomb's damping, we will understand. Okay, now this figure shows the rate of decay of vibration. Rate of decay of vibration means what? First of all, loss of amplitude. Try to understand this. Loss of amplitude per cycle. Loss of amplitude per cycle with which type of damping? With Coulomb's damping. Okay, loss of amplitude per cycle in case of viscous damping we have already seen, that is a del, and we have derived a formula del is equal to 2 pi zeta upon square root of 1 minus zeta square. Okay, and for n number of cycle, del is equal to 1 upon n into ln of initial amplitude upon final amplitude. This is what we have derived. But in case of Coulomb's damping, rate of decay of vibration is nothing but the loss of amplitude per cycle with Coulomb's damping, and that we have to derive. Okay, so let us consider this figure. Now let us say that this is a one cycle. Let's say you can say 0 to this point is one cycle. Okay, now this is a, let us say, one cycle. You can see that this one cycle is divided into the 4 parts. Okay, this is divided into the 4 parts. Now why it is divided into the 4 parts? Because for analysis we have considered the 4 quarters. Okay, mass is towards the right, mass is towards the left, moving to the left and right. Okay, and we have seen the analysis, and we have come to the conclusion that omega d is equal to omega into n. Okay, and now for first and fourth quarter cycle, what was the x? X was x was minus fr by k, and for second and third quarter cycle, x is equal to fr by k. Okay, now you can see how we have indicated this x is equal to fr by k and x is equal to minus fr by k. Now let us say that this is a mean position. Okay, now this is a mean position of the mass. This is the mean position of the mass, and let us say this is a mass. Okay, now let us say mass is moving towards this side. Okay, now if you consider this as a mass, and you can say now this is the you can say the right side of the mass, and this is nothing but the left side of the mass, right? So when mass is moving, okay, toward the right side, and let us say mass is moving toward the left side, okay, so this is how we have considered. And now let us say these are nothing but the amplitudes, so this is nothing but the amplitude diagram what we have drawn here, A to C, and this is, and you can see that this from point A to point C and from point A to point is, you can see that, and there is a loss of amplitude, means what, the amplitudes are decreasing. Why it is decreasing? Because of the damping, that is nothing but the Coulomb's damping, okay. And for now let us say that we have to consider some starting point. Now what is the starting point? Let us say A is the starting point of the cycle, okay. A is the starting point of the cycle. A is the starting point of the cycle means what? Sorry, this is a left position, huh? This is a left position, means what? Extreme left, means what? Extreme left position. This is nothing but an extreme left position, okay. So A is nothing but a starting point of the cycle or the extreme left position of the mass M, okay. And let us say the point B, this point B here, this point B is nothing but the, we can say, the extreme right position of the mass, extreme right position of the mass. So when mass is at the extreme right position, okay, so that is denoted by this point P. So here you can see this is a mass, I have shown this is a mass, this is nothing but a mass M. So this mass M is nothing but the extreme right position, and it is shown by this point B, and this mass is nothing but the shown by the point A, extreme left position, okay. So now we can see that at when the mass is moving towards the left, so moving towards the left means what? Second and third quarter cycle, you are getting x is equal to Fr by K. So that is, so let us say that it is shown by this dotted line above the mean line. Above the mean line means what? Basically towards the left of the mean position. So this is a mean position, na? So towards the left, it is shown by the x is equal to Fr by K. Why x is equal to Fr by K? Because for second and third quarter cycle, mass is moving towards the left, and when the mass is moving towards the left, we have already derived x is equal to Fr by K. And for first and fourth quarter cycle, mass is moving towards the right, this is the right position, okay. So here you are getting x is equal to minus Fr by K, okay. So I hope you have understand this diagram, okay. So this is nothing but a right position, extreme right, this is nothing but a extreme left, okay. So now considering a cycle starting from a point A, I have considered cycle starting from a point A. Now at point A, the velocity, now this point A means what? Again, basically this point A indicates extreme left position, okay. I am repeating again, extreme left. Now at, and this point B again indicates the extreme right position, okay. Now at extreme position, your potential energy is maximum, means what? Kinetic energy is 0. Kinetic energy 0 means what? Velocity of mass M is 0. So at this point A, velocity of mass M is equal to 0, right? Now velocity of mass M is equal to 0. So at this position, which position? This at extreme left position, or at this point A, what will be the total energy? Now total energy at point A will be kinetic energy plus potential energy. But now you know that this kinetic energy is 0 because velocity of mass M is 0. So what will be the only total energy? Potential energy. Now what is potential energy? Potential energy is nothing but the strain energy. Why strain energy? Because the energy stored inside the spring, and spring is the elastic energy, means what? The energy due to the elastic deformation. Strain energy means what? Energy due to the elastic deformation, okay. So I'll erase this out. So what I am getting? So total energy at point A is, let us say, UA. What is UA? Total energy at point A is nothing but the strain energy or energy due to the elastic deformation. It is given by, let us say, 1 of K into, let us say, XA square. Okay, I am considering this XA. Why XA? Because from this point to A point, the distance, let us say, this amplitude is XA. That is why I have considered as the XA. Now similarly at position B, again your kinetic energy is 0, velocity of mass M is 0. So let us say total energy is due to the elastic energy or elastic deformation or the strain energy, and it is given by UB is equal to 1 of K into XB square. Okay. Now guys, try to understand that if I consider starting point as a cycle, so A to B will be a half cycle and B to C will be another half cycle. So A to C will be a one complete cycle. If I'm considering A as a starting point, if you can consider the O as a starting point, so the cycle will end at this corresponding point. Okay, at this corresponding point. But now I consider starting point as a, so B will be the my first half cycle and B to C will be the second half cycle. Okay, so now let us start. Now, once you have got UA, that is a total energy at point A and total energy at point B. Now, when the mass is moving from or during the cycle A to B, there is a loss of energy. Loss of energy means what? Some energy is dissipated into the atmosphere, dissipated from the cycle, and that is why the amplitude has released. Amplitude has decreased. There is a rate of decay of amplitude or rate of decay of vibrations. Means what? There is a some energy is lost. Now, energy loss in a half cycle. Now, energy loss in a half cycle. How will you calculate energy loss in a half cycle? So, let us say that loss of energy del U, loss of energy del U is equal to UA minus UB. Why UA minus UB? You can see here also. Okay. If UA is the energy at point A and UB is the potential or the total energy at point B, so loss of energy in a half cycle from point A to point B is given by what? It is given by del U is equal to UA minus UB, right? So now what is UA minus UB? 1 of K into XA square minus 1 of K into XB square. This is what? So what is del U? First of all, del U is nothing but the loss of energy. I will write here loss of energy in a half cycle. In a half cycle from point A to point B. So from point A to point B, loss of energy in a half cycle is nothing but a 1 of K square minus 1 of K square. Okay. So let me say that let this is some equation or equation number 1. Okay. Now similarly, now first of all guys, try to understand that why the energy is lost or why there is a loss of energy in the half cycle. Now you know that this loss of energy in a half cycle from point B is due to or because of what? Because of work done against a frictional force. Now, which type of damping you are providing in the system? You are providing a Coulomb's damping. Coulomb's damping means what? In Coulomb's damping, what is the damping force? Fr, that is a frictional force. Means what? Some work is done against this frictional force. And that is why this loss of energy in the half cycle from A to B is due to the work done against the frictional force Fr. Okay, against the frictional force Fr. Now let us say that this work done against the frictional force is W. So work done against the frictional force W is equal to what? It is nothing but the Fr. What is Fr? Fr is nothing but a force. Fr is nothing but a force multiplied by distance travel. Fr is nothing but a force multiplied by distance travel. Now guys, what is the distance travel in the half cycle A to B? So that is nothing but the Fr into, what is the distance travel? Fr into XA. Let us say XA plus XB is nothing but a distance travel. So I am getting this equation 2, right? See, this is equation number 2 I am getting. Equation number 1 is total energy in half cycle, total loss of energy in half cycle, 1 of Kx square minus 1 of Kxb square. Now this loss of energy is due to the work done against the frictional force, and let us say it is denoted by W. So W is equal to Fr into distance travel, that is equal to W is equal to Fr into XA to XB. Okay, clear? So now what I will get? Now what I will get in this? Okay, let me say what I will get in this. Okay, so now I can write like this: loss of energy from in a half cycle is equal to what? Work done against the frictional force. Work done against the frictional force. Okay, now guys, what is the loss of energy? Loss of energy is nothing but a W. Sorry, loss of energy is nothing but a del U. Work done is nothing but a W. What is del U? 1 half K into XA square minus 1 half K into minus 1 half K into XB square is equal to what is W? Fr into xa, see how I am deriving this, xa fr is equal to xa plus xb. Okay, so now I am getting here what I will get. Let us say uh, if I am removing a half common, k common, okay, if I am removing k common, so one of k, half k common, so I am getting here xa square minus xb square, means a square minus b square is equal to w. Now a square minus b square means what? A minus b, a plus b. So I am getting 1 of k into xa plus xb into xa plus xb into I am getting xa minus xb is equal to what is w? Fr, this is w, fr into x plus xb. Okay, now this xa plus xb and xa plus xb will get cancelled. Okay, because w is equal to fr into xa plus xb. So what remains? The remaining term is xa minus xb is equal to what is w now? Basically w means what? I will write here fr xa plus xb. Okay, xr, fr into xa plus xb. Okay, so this is getting cancelled now. So remaining is what? Fr, and this 2 fr divided by k. So xa minus xb is nothing but the 2 fr upon k. So this is the relation what I've got. So the loss of, so what do you mean by this? Xa minus xb is equal to 2 fr upon k. The loss of amplitude in a half cycle from point A to B. Okay, now I will come to the diagram. Now you can see here in this particular diagram, the loss of amplitude from in a half cycle from point A to B. What is the loss of amplitude? Xa minus xb is equal to 2 fr divided by k. Similarly, now the loss of amplitude from point B to point C. The loss of amplitude in a half cycle from point B to point C. This is from point A to point B, half cycle. Another half cycle B to C. Very easy. What you will get? Xb minus xc. Xb minus xc is equal to 2 fr by k. So basically, what you have to understand in the Coulomb damping is that the difference between any two successive amplitude is always constant. The difference between the any two successive amplitude is always constant means what? I will explain you once I solve this. Okay, so now have you understand? I got xb minus xc as 2 fr by k, xa minus xb 2 fr k. Now total loss in one cycle means what? From point A to point C. You will understand. Okay, let us understand this. So what exactly we are getting? Let us understand this. Okay, chalo. So now total, let us say total loss. So I want total loss of energy, total loss of energy, na? Or total loss, or you can call it the total loss of amplitude. The total loss of amplitude in one cycle. Let us say it is denoted by del. So total loss of amplitude in one cycle denoted by del is equal to xa minus xc, because A to C is the one cycle, na? So what is this xa minus xc? You can write like this: xa minus xc is nothing but a xa minus xb first half cycle A to B plus xb minus xc second half cycle B to C. Now this is equal to 2 fr by k plus 2 fr by k, and finally guys you are getting del is equal to 4 fr by k. So guys, the rate of decay of vibration, or you can say the loss of amplitude in one cycle can be calculated by 4 fr by k. So del is nothing but a loss of amplitude. This is a very important derivation, loss of amplitude in one cycle. Okay, what is that? Del. Now what statement I made earlier, let me clear that statement. The statement was this loss of amplitude. Let us say the difference between the any two successive amplitude. Let us say that the difference between the A to C means what? The amplitude, the loss of amplitude from point A to C is nothing but 4 fr by k. The loss of amplitude from point C to, let us say this is a point A, it is 4 fr by k. Means what? This it means that the difference between the A and the C is 4 fr by k. Difference between the C and D is also 4 fr by k. So in Coulomb's damping, this difference is constant. The difference between the any two successive amplitude is constant. And what is that? That is nothing but the 4 fr by k. And to to be more precise, let me uh, take an example of a logarithmic decrement. Let us say del. This del is nothing but the ln of x1 upon x2. Now, in case of the viscous damping, now this is a diagram for a viscous damping. In viscous damping, uh, what I have explained in case of the viscous damping, the ratio of any two successive amplitude. Ratio of any two successive amplitude means what? Del is equal to ln of x1 by x2. Ratio of any two successive amplitude is the ln of x2 upon x3 is constant. Means what? If you take an example, if you take x1 upon x2, or even if you take x2 upon x3, that remains constant in case of the viscous damping. But in case of the Coulomb's damping, the difference between the two successive amplitudes, okay, so ratio and the difference, these are the two. So that word in case of the Coulomb's viscous damping, that word is ratio of two successive amplitudes, x1 upon x2. And in case of the Coulomb's damping, that word is difference. That is the difference between the two successive amplitude is constant. So this is the very important, you can say, differentiation between the viscous damping and the Coulomb's damping. So I hope you have understand this. Okay. So now the last part. Now let us say that this was for the linear Coulomb damping. Now in case of the damp, so let us say it is a case of damp free, this is the name of the module, na? Damp free torsional vibration. Now in case of the damp free torsional vibration with Coulomb damping, huh? So now the derivation was what? For damp free, we have derived this del is equal to 4 fr by k for a damp free linear vibration. Okay, that is a translational vibration, translational linear vibration with Coulomb's damping. Okay, that is we have considered x as a displacement, means translational. But for the case of damp free torsional vibration, okay, this formula will become, first of all, omega n will become, instead of k upon m, it will become kt upon r. This is a change. And the loss of amplitude, I am just writing the change, the loss of amplitude in one cycle. Okay, try to remember this, loss of amplitude in one cycle, del is given by what is fr upon k, na? So here you can write, instead of force, in case of the torsional it will be torque, so tr. Okay, so you can call it as a frictional torque, tr upon kt, and the unit will be here radian. Okay, is it clear? Have you understand this? So this is all about the Coulomb's damping. So in the next lecture we will study how to solve the problems on the Coulomb's damping. Okay, thank you so much.